So let's talk about what we came here to talk about today. And these last 7 games of the schedule, Chiefs are 8-1. If I would have told you, Connor, at the start of the season, the Chiefs would be 8-1 going into the bye week, what would your reaction been?
I think I was expecting 7-2, so overall pretty happy. They had some tough games early on. They've actually had two signature wins against the Bills, who are now 7-2, and what was the other team? The Ravens,
Ravens, yeah.
who are now 7-1, I think. No, 7-2 also, I
Two,
believe.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because Steelers and Chiefs. So who are two AFC hopefuls. So that's really nice
Mm-hmm.
for them. I think the only thing is like I did not expect the one loss to be to the Raiders. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it could be to the Bills, the Patriots, the Ravens. I don't know. It could be any of them.
Mm-hmm.
But it was to the Raiders. So overall, still, I'm pretty happy, especially if we beat the Raiders coming out of the bye week. Um, I think 9-1 going to the last half of the year is a good place to be, and it's only made slightly uncomfortable by the Steelers being undefeated. So
I agree with that. The Steelers looked good, but they looked vulnerable in their game against the Cowboys on, was that Sunday Night Football, or was that just an
no,
afternoon game? Okay,
afternoon game, yeah.
man, all those games run together after the noon game. They all just
No, the Sunday
match
night
together.
football game was the lambasting of Tom Brady and the
Oh
Buccaneers.
yes, how could I forget that? I didn't actually get to watch that game because I was working on the podcast, but like I just kept seeing notifications come up on my phone about, Jameis at the end of the game was eating W's, and Jameis comes in and plays, and I saw memes of like Jameis Winston could have had a better stat line than Tom Brady did, but just really people are ready to bury Tom Brady.
It was I watched the first. I had to turn off after that. I was just like, this is kind of sad to watch. Yeah, I don't know what happened, honestly. I think the Saints just know how to play against the Bucks.
Yeah.
And I think they're getting healthier. They had Michael Thomas for this game, so they're probably a better team overall. I think they also got Cam Jordan back too.
Hmm.
So that's two really good players for them that came back. But you would think it would have been closer than that, especially because
Yeah.
like we saw DVOA said that the Bucks were number one by quite a bit going into that
Hmm.
game, and then they dropped 11.6% in DVOA, total DVOA after that game, and the Saints actually jumped up to number one because of it.
Wow.
It's like a game like that hasn't really existed in DVOA's this century, and they even said that
Hmm.
this was the biggest swing. So it was quite a weird game because I don't think anybody really expected that.
Yeah, those are both teams that the Chiefs will face this season too, which
Yeah.
I was interesting to see how that reacted. The Buccaneers dropping both of those games to the Saints, and even when people are very quick to bury quarterbacks now, especially old quarterbacks, people were quick to bury Drew Brees after he had a poor performance. What was that against the Bears? And then he had not a very good game. He had a couple bad games in a row, and people
Yeah.
were ready to say Drew Brees is done. He can't throw the ball downfield. Michael Thomas only runs slants because Drew Brees can't throw the ball past 5 yards downfield. And now people are ready to bury Tom Brady. He always washed up. He can't do anything. You start to see a little bit with Russell Wilson. Now he throws, what was it, 3 interceptions against the
He had
Bills?
4 turnovers against the Bills, two
Yeah.
interceptions, 2 fumbles.
So he has 4 turnovers, and people are like, "Well, get him out of the MVP race. This isn't an MVP." People, we're just so quick to bury people now, and I just
Right.
find it interesting to see how how Mahomes has risen in the MVP contention. He hasn't really had a terrible game. I think against Buffalo, you could probably say was one of his worst statistical games, but
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't Buffalo. Is that the game he had 200 yards in?
Yeah, he had 200 yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, but the Chiefs also ran for 245
Right.
yards.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's interesting.
Splitting hairs, really. And
Hmm.
I think from 2018, when Mahomes won MVP, that conversation honestly drained me like mentally, just talking about MVP for the whole year. So I think
Yeah.
this year I'm gonna kind of like check out of it and check in like after the season's over, and then we can go,
Yeah.
okay, now we have the full season to talk about. Let's just actually talk about who's MVP. Usually by the end of the year, we know who's gonna win it. Most years are like that. So and then arguing over it in week 9. It's just like, is this really a good use of my time? I don't know. I think I could do better things right now.
I think that's fair. So let's look at the games that the Chiefs have to round out the season. They have the Vegas Raiders right after this. That game could be a bloodbath. I've speculated just because of Andy Reid off of a bye week, the animosity going into Las Vegas. They're the what do you want to call it? The atmosphere is there. The situation is right for it to be really in the Chiefs' favor. What do you think about that matchup?
Yeah, I think we've seen a few Chiefs players even comment on how they're looking forward to this game.
Yeah.
So I know Raiders fans, and I'm guessing the Raiders organization as well, are not happy for playing the Chiefs off their bye week for the third straight year, apparently. I don't know why the schedule makers hate the Raiders that much, but I'm here
Right.
for it. Uh, I think they will. I think the Chiefs will win by 2 scores. I just think they're going to be extremely motivated for this because the Raiders are kind of the first team that have knocked them off their pedestal since the Super
Mm-hmm.
Bowl, and um, I think that probably stuck with a lot of the players. And having an extra week to also prepare for
Yeah.
is just kind of unfair. So I'm expecting them to come out guns blazing. And I think the Raiders are vulnerable, and I think they just caught the Chiefs at a weird time in the earlier game this year.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. That was not a very Kansas City Chiefs like game. I was just looking to see if they have a futures line out for it, if Vegas does, um, but they don't yet. That makes sense
Mhm.
because a lot of the lines for this week's games aren't even set yet. But I think the Vegas game will be interesting. Another interesting game right after that, which you could potentially call Vegas a trap game. I don't think it's going to be, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers they go down to Tampa Bay, they take on the Bucks, and I'll tell you this, Connor, I'm a lot less worried about the Buccaneers than I was a couple of weeks ago.
I don't get the Bucks.
I
Did
don't
Chris
either.
Godwin play on Sunday night?
I
I
believe
don't.
he was out.
Their offense is like literally so different when he's playing,
It
and
is.
I don't get why per se. I mean, he's a great player, but it's like not good when he plays.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm guessing he'll be back for that. His injury was like a fractured finger, so
Right.
I think he'll be back in a few weeks. I don't get what's going on between Mike Evans and Tom Brady. Like, did Mike Evans like slap Tom Brady in practice or something?
Right. It is
I don't
weird.
know what's going on with that chemistry. And we didn't really see Antonio Brown do too much either.
Mm-mm.
I don't know if I'm afraid of him yet. I think he'll have to prove that he is ready to play in the NFL again before I'm actually afraid of Brown.
Right.
They already had a good slot receiver in Scotty Miller, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if right now Brown's much of an upgrade. It might take a while for him to get integrated in the offense. We'll see. And I thought the Bucks defense was really good. It's
So
just the
did I.
Saints. Maybe the Saints just knew how to play against it. They played against that mostly that defense last year too, so
Mm-hmm.
they've seen it before, and you know how division games sometimes go. So we saw that defense stifling Aaron Rodgers. That was literally his only bad
Right.
game all year. So I think the Chiefs shouldn't be underdogs. I think it's a true 50-50 type game, especially because it's
Mm-hmm.
away. And I think it's definitely going to be an interesting gauge for how the Chiefs are heading into the last half of the schedule.
Yeah, if anything, when it comes to the Vegas line, I could see the Bucks getting 3.5, maybe, just because the home team usually gets 3 points. That's
Hmm.
how it goes when it comes to line making. That game will be interesting. I'm not going to pick against the Chiefs. I really don't. We don't have a reason to pick against the Chiefs. I don't think at this point. When you look at these matchups, yeah, the Vegas game was weird, but I think we all feel that it's an anomaly, that it wasn't indicative of this team.
It highly depends, I think, for me, how they look coming out of the bye week against the
Yeah.
Raiders.
Hmm.
If they look dominant, if they win by 2 scores, one score, but at the end of the game, the Raiders did their last drive onside
Hmm.
kick, kind of like the Panthers did. And I'll be like, okay, they beat a good team. The Raiders are a good team this year,
Yeah.
so I think they should beat the Bucks if they're playing at their best. They don't always play at their best, but I think they should
Hmm.
beat the Bucks.